For many of us, our first real taste of freedom began in childhood upon learning how to ride a bike. After mastering the balance and the push of the pedals, the world opened up before us. We could be a mile away in 10 minutes, no parents, seeing and experiencing the world alone for the first time.
In the year 2000, 10-year-old Josh Walden freely roamed his neighborhood on his bike, but one day he left for a ride and never returned.
Today on Dark Matters, the unsolved case of Josh Walden.
On June 24th, 1990, Anne and Johnny Walden welcomed the newest member of their family, Joshua Lee Walden, into the world. Older sister Crystal was delighted at the arrival and helped change his diapers, bring him bottles, and dress him.
The years passed for the Walden family in their East Lake neighborhood home, nestled in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and they watched Josh grow into a happy, healthy young boy.
10-year-old Josh was a student at East Lake Elementary and a video game-loving, football-playing, outdoor exploring boy with a fondness for riding his bike and helping others. Josh often asked the neighborhood elders if they needed their grass cut, willing to lend a hand. A friendly, familiar face in East Lake, Josh often rode his 16-inch Magnum bicycle through the streets, but never without his shoes. Josh was fanatical about always wearing his shoes, even going to bed without removing them, and he didn't like it when he woke in the morning to find his parents had taken them off while he slept. Even at friends' sleepovers, Josh kept his shoes on, preferring to hop straight out of bed and be home by 7 a.m. in the morning after, according to his sister.
Despite his quirks, Josh was an all-around good kid and a bit of a mama's boy, always making sure to call home when he was away.
In late 2000, Crystal, 17 years old at the time, was pregnant with her first child, and she says her youngest brother was thrilled about becoming an uncle. Unfortunately, Josh only knew Crystal's child for a brief time before he vanished. Friday, December 8th, 2000, afternoon. With school out for the day, 2 of the Walden children were home.
Crystal changed her newborn's diaper while Josh was in the kitchen. At some point, she called out to her brother, asking where he was at, but there was no answer.
Unbeknownst to her, he'd left with his bike, which he'd recently painted a dull red color, hoping to find someone in the neighborhood who could help him fix his flat tire. Several neighbors saw Josh with his bike, but it was a familiar sight and caused no alarm at the time.
Night fell, and Josh still hadn't returned home, nor had he called, leaving his sister with a horrible sense that something was wrong. It wasn't like him to wander off for so long without contact.
As midnight passes and Crystal's anxiety peaks, she phones the police to report her brother missing.
A group led by law enforcement, family, friends, and neighbors set out to look for Josh, but there's no trace of him or his bike. The search continues through the entire day, but it's as if Josh simply vanished off the face of the earth.
Sunday, December 10th, approximately 12:30 p.m. Josh's brother, Jonathan, helped several neighborhood children search for any sign of his brother. They combed a wooded hill overlooking East Lake Park, an area Josh frequented with his bike, just a half a mile from the Walden home. The boys suddenly stumbled across a small human foot sticking out of the detritus and leaves on the forest floor.
Not wanting to see the face, a frightened Jonathan averted his eyes and raced down the hill to his father, Johnny Walden, to relay what he'd seen.
Police quickly surrounded the area, keeping family and passers-by at a distance while they investigated. The afternoon passed at an agonizing pace, but finally, police confirmed that Jonathan had stumbled across his own brother's body. Johnny Walden wanted desperately to break the police line, to know with 100% certainty that they'd found Josh, but authorities kept him at bay while they analyzed the crime scene. Josh was found in a slight depression in the hill with his body covered in leaves, only his foot immediately visible. Upon brushing away the leaves, authorities grew more puzzled.
Both of Josh's feet were bare, no socks or shoes to be found nearby, something very out of character for him. The bike was also absent from the scene, but the most alarming discovery for authorities was Josh's body, which had an unusual, almost burned appearance. Detectives couldn't immediately determine exactly what had happened to him, and he was transported to the Hamilton County Forensic Center for the autopsy.
There were no major outward signs of injury to Josh, only a few superficial abrasions across the right side of his face and nose.
There was also no sign of sexual assault. What the medical examiner did find, however, was the cause of death: mechanical asphyxia, specifically suffocation.
Detective Mike Mathis later clarified Josh wasn't strangled, rather, some sort of compression to his chest, stomach, or back halted his flow of oxygen, causing his demise.
The results of the autopsy were announced the day after he was found, but authorities didn't tell the public or the Waldens about the acid until a year later.
Detectives found the perpetrator had poured muriatic acid over Josh's body post-mortem in an apparent attempt to cover up the crime or to delay identifying the body. The acid was on Josh, beneath his body, and on nearby leaves at the crime scene.
Muriatic acid is a corrosive material with fumes so strong it can burn skin or your lungs if inhaled, but it is recommended as a last resort for several uses, as it is dangerous if not handled properly.
It is used in producing paper, plastic, and detergents, and can be heavily diluted to remove stains or rust on metal, get rid of mold patches on hard surfaces, neutralize alkalinity on paint jobs done on brick, concrete, or stone. It can also be used in swimming pool maintenance, both for balancing pH levels and removing stains from the pool's structure.
Though it can damage human skin, the acid actually kept any curious animals away from Josh's body, thus helping to preserve him.
For the first year, police kept the acid detail under wraps to protect the integrity of the case, but after a lack of leads, they released the information to the public, feeling it was their best chance of making any headway.
Despite going door to door, speaking with neighbors and friends, and having the full cooperation and help from the Walden family, police had few suspects and not enough to make any arrests. Authorities don't believe the crime was sexually motivated and have no other clues as to who would want to hurt 10-year-old Josh, so no motive has been uncovered.
Police spoke with the Federal Bureau of Investigation, asking if they had any similar cases in the country, and in January 2001, the FBI even visited Chattanooga to look at the evidence in Josh's case. But in both instances, they came up empty. Josh's bike, socks, and shoes have never been located, and leads have dried up. In January 2015, the district attorney's cold case unit met with several other agencies, hoping fresh eyes might bring new light and new leads to the case.
They met with experts from the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, the FBI, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives, and the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. But while law enforcement focused on the investigation, all the community could do was wait.
The heinous crime frightened at least one local family to relocate to another state entirely. In the aftermath, the town's trust was shaken. Parents no longer let children wander further than the front yard, wondering if a killer wandered their streets free.
For Crystal, one question pervaded. Why? Why Josh? Though we can all hope for an answer against all odds, we may never know why, but many still ask the question, who?
After reviewing the case, the Federal Bureau of Investigation drew up a possible profile of the young boy's killer.
In their report, they speculated the perpetrator was local and also said the following.
Quote, "The significant feature is the choice of the immediate neighborhood as the body disposal site. Research has shown that when operating under severe stress, individuals tend to revert to the familiar. In other words, the offender was comfortable in the neighborhood, thus that the offender lives or has spent considerable time in the neighborhood. The killer used acid because he is familiar with it or has ready access to it. The offender does not kill the victim and then purchase the acid. He uses what is readily available to him and what he is comfortable handling, and was probably involved in an occupation or some activity in which acid was utilized." End quote.
The report also made a chilling conjecture that the police had likely already made contact with the killer at some point during the investigation.
For Detective Mathis, he can't say for sure if Josh's killer meant to hurt him, saying, quote, "Until we can get to the bottom of it, we can't say 100%, but we do think there's an aspect that this may not have been intentional."
Regardless of whether or not Josh's death was an accident or not, the perpetrator's actions have left a deep wound in a family who still searches for answers.
Unfortunately, nearly 18 years later, it's possible the only thing that could solve Josh's murder is someone coming forward with information.
Sergeant Bill Phillips said in 2007 he still thinks someone has held on to Josh's bike even after all these years.
He told WDEF News 12, quote, "What may seem so minor to them could be tremendous for the investigation. So anything that anybody knows, no matter how ridiculous they may think it seems, let us know." End quote. Detective Mathis, who in his police retirement became a part of the district attorney's cold case squad still looking into Josh's case, echoed the sergeant's sentiments, asking for people to come forward if they know anything about that fateful day.
But for family, more than a sense of justice drives them to hope for answers.
Ann Walden, Josh's mother, pleads for help, saying, quote, "Anybody who knows anything, please come forward. Bring my baby's killer to justice. You never heal. The pain, the suffering, the emptiness, it never goes away." End quote. And Josh's older sister, Crystal, who now keeps an unwavering eye over her 5 children, offers forgiveness to the perpetrator. She just wants to know why Josh. She said to various news outlets over the years, quote, "I feel like my kids were robbed of an uncle. I was robbed of a brother. If anybody knows anything, no matter how little it is, no matter what you think, if it matters or if it don't matter, any little thing could help. The murderer is still out there, and as long as I keep Josh's memory alive, then maybe this won't happen to another child." Josh went missing while wearing a red shirt, black jeans, and riding a dull red bicycle. He was 4 feet 5 inches at the time, 10 years old, and weighed 60 pounds. He had blue eyes and light brown hair. According to the FBI, the offender in this case lived or had spent considerable time in the Eastlake neighborhood and was familiar with the area. The offender probably experienced life changes shortly before or after the act, such as moving house, changing jobs, altering their appearance, trading vehicles, or even a marital status change. Anyone with information on Josh's murder or the circumstances of his disappearance is encouraged to call the cold case hotline for the Chattanooga DA at 423-209-7470. Or you can call Crime Stoppers and give an anonymous tip at 423-698-3333. If you would rather submit a tip online concerning the case, there will be links in the description under case info. Special thanks to the Patreon family. The names you see on screen are just some of the people who financially contribute to this channel. Whether they are passionate about cases like Josh's or the other dark content on this channel, their support cannot be overstated. If you are interested in supporting the channel, information is in the description, but Even if you only continue to support by watching, thank you.
Thank you for giving Josh's case a moment of your time, and my heart goes out to his family and friends. They've gone too long without answers, and we all hope closure can begin soon. Josh's case hit me really particularly hard, and in sharing his story, I hope you all will keep the vibrant boy he was alive in your thoughts. And no matter what you choose to believe or what you speculate, I ask you only for respect in the comments below, both for Josh and his family. And remember, though these may be dark matters, the darkness always matters.
Thank you for supporting the channel. If you want some Cameo merch and missed out last time, it is currently available in the Teespring store, and I recently started recording new episodes of my podcast, ThoughtCraftCast, and you can find either of those things by clicking on the links above. Stay safe, friends, and have a good night.